There are heroes and there are legends. Heroes come and go. Legends never die. We usually say that you cannot become a legend before death. These are living legends. If the legends fall silent, who will teach the children of our ways? Sun Coaches Podcast, Season 5, brought to you by Titan Sensor, is proud to present The Legends. Sun Coaches is proud to partner with Titan Sports for the next 4 seasons on Sun Coaches Podcast. Titan GPS delivers technological superiority and improved player performance through wearable GPS made for high school football and strength and conditioning. From speed training to athlete recruit to workload enhancement, Titan is the easy-to-use yet comprehensive GPS tool to get it done. There's no minimum to get started, and Titan will walk you through every step to success. Message us on X at Titan Sensor to learn more and get in touch. Welcome to Sun Coaches Podcast, Season 5, the Legends Series. And if I got a treat for you today, won 260 games as a head coach. He's in 5 different Hall of Fames. He's one of only 14 coaches to win a state championship at 2 different high schools. There's so many accolades that I could probably spend 20 minutes talking about it. But Coach Charles Winslette, thanks for joining me today.
Coach, good to be here. I'll tell you what, it's a novel thing there that you're doing with your podcast. And, of course, I already knew about you. You're a legend on Twitter and, the social media. So I already knew about you. I look forward to talking to you.
Well, Coach, I know you grew up in Putnam County and was quite the athlete yourself. You lettered in 5 different sports, I understand.
Yes, that was one good thing about being in a small school is that, you didn't have to specialize. You had a chance to play everything. And, that was great. I know track, the only thing I did in track was throw the shot put. Up at Jefferson, I was throwing the shot put and I scratched on the first 2 of them. Coach Reeves called me, Al Reeves, my mentor and head football coach, head baseball coach, head every kind of coach. He called me over the side and he said, we need some points out of you. Said, if you scratch again, said, you have to call somebody to come get you because you ain't riding that bus back home. That was Coach Reeves at his best.
So he was just your coach. I mean, he was the head coach for everything.
He was a track coach, baseball coach, a football coach. He did everything except, I guess, the basketball. And, it was a year-round deal with him. He was, Putnam sports and all had been sort of so-so and everything was great. And then all of a sudden, Al Reeves came to town, and of course, it didn't hurt that Brent Cunningham and some other guys in his class came along about the same time. But Coach Reeves was serious about his business. He was a hard-working man, and my hat's off to him. I know I tried to emulate a lot of the stuff that he did as far as holding people accountable and all that, because I promise you he would hold you accountable.
So you were on the first state championship team ever there, weren't you?
Yes, it's the only one they've ever had. It really is. It's a sort of a funny thing, went over to Greene County, and when we won the state in 93 over there, I found out that was the only state championship they ever won. So I don't know how those things work out and all, but I know Putnam was star for a state championship, and had some good teams in the past, but nothing like the team with Brent Cunningham and Bill Haley and some of those guys that were outstanding football players. And I don't know. I guess I was the only youngster on the whole team there, and sort of paid for it the next year. We had a bunch of guys who never had played a whole lot the next year, and the next year wasn't near as much fun as the state championship year.
But you went on to play college baseball, right? Baseball was like that's what you were best at, right?
It was. I went to Georgia College, Milledgeville. I had a chance where I really made a bad mistake is Coach Ron Polk, legendary baseball coach at Georgia and Mississippi State and Georgia Southern. He offered me a chance to come and play for him at Georgia Southern, and I don't know. I stayed close to home, and that was a bad mistake. I would have really enjoyed playing for Coach Polk, I know. And then, after a couple of years there, I had 2 good years at Georgia College. Coach Jim Watley at the University of Georgia, out of the blue, in Waycross, Georgia, down there where their football stadium is. We were down there playing during the summer, and I had a good little series, and I kept noticing this guy that was about 6'7" by 8" walking around there, and I said, he's got to be somebody, that's played some athletics somewhere. Of course, he was one of the best that University of Alabama ever had. And he called me over to the side and asked me what I was doing. He said, how would you like to come play at the University of Georgia? And I don't think my feet touched the ground all the way back home. That was a dream come true. I came from one 4-year school to another 4-year school, and he told me, he said, you're going to have to sit out a year, because of the transfer rule, one 4-year school to another one. But, we'll look after you, and, we want you to come be with us. And I don't know. I was, you talking about starting a hard way at Georgia College down there. I was on what they call a work aid scholarship. I was dust mopping the dance hall floor and the gym floor about 2 or 3 times a day. And I had a lady down there that was a dance instructor named Dr. Poindexter, and she came and got me off the bus. We were headed off to play a baseball game one time because she wasn't satisfied with the job I had done dust mopping the dance hall floor. So I had to get off the bus and go up there and get that mop and get it done.
She wasn't gonna let you go.
No, sir. She came on the bus. She sure did. And of course, when I saw her, I said, "Oh God, I know what this is all about."
Well, you also graduated with honors at the University of Georgia as well, too, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. My mother was always responsible for that part of it. My mother had a unique deal. On Friday after work, she worked at the Enterprise aluminum plant down there for 35 years, and she was a line worker and got up every morning at 5:30, 6 o'clock, and went to work. She'd get off in the evening. It was the same Enterprise aluminum plant that came from Massillon, Ohio. If you can believe that. All those guys that came down here from Massillon, all they did was talk about Massillon football. And so when we finally won a state championship, my mother and them shut them up a little bit then. But before then, it was sort of brutal because they had a lot to brag about, in Massillon, Ohio. So they had won a bunch of them up there. But my mother would go on Friday afternoons to get a hair fixed. And just so happened that on Friday afternoon, all my teachers were getting their hair fixed. And a lot of times she would know what I made on a test before I even knew. And that's how much of a stickler she was for academics and whatever. And she wasn't playing around with that. And of course, my dad, he was not into that as much as he was the athletic end of it. My dad loved athletics. He had been a baseball player. I don't even think they had football in the high school when he was coming along, but he was baseball and basketball, and he really loved the athletics. Putnam County High School athletics. He started me off at a young age going to everything they had. And I had a couple of first cousins who were girls that played at Putnam County and were very good in basketball. And I don't know, everything they played, my dad tried to get me to. So he was a big part of my interest in Putnam County High School and all those sports.
So when you came out of the University of Georgia, what was your first teaching and coaching job?
I actually, while I was at the University of Georgia, and it was a unique situation, I ain't even sure it was legit, but they were starting up a driver's ed program at Cedar Shoals. And I scheduled my classes at Georgia in the morning, and I was actually teaching and getting paid at Cedar Shoals. I was teaching driver's ed with Lloyd Bohannon, longtime coach at Griffin. And we had a range down there. And I told Lloyd when I took the job, I said, y'all are crazy. We had 12 cars going around that range, and we were up there in the booth talking to them on two-way radio. And I said, Lord, we gonna have somebody get killed down here, man. Yeah, the guy, he said somebody driving, and they had a co-pilot sitting in there with them. And of course, you know about how much they was listening to us. And, we tell them to go to the stop sign, make a right turn, and use a blinker, and this and that and the other. And I don't know, it was sort of a riot, but that's how I got started in the business. And I remember the first year that I was assistant baseball, assistant football, varsity football, varsity baseball, assistant on both of them, and my teaching salary and the total thing was $7,500, and I was so proud of it. And after kind of looking at it, I said, I don't know how we gonna make it on this. So since I was in Athens, I was able to take a job before I went to school in the morning, and I was delivering the Athens Banner Herald, about 180 people over there on my route, and sort of had to do that just to make ends meet there. I had just gotten married, and had to do something to make some money. So that was the only thing I could work into the day, because I did that at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then went to school, and then practiced baseball in the afternoon. So I don't know. It was a full day, but it was a blessing getting over there with Lloyd Bohannon and Johnny Waters and Bill McCullough. They were great guys, and they were really, really good to me. I know that.
How long did you get to work with them?
2 years. I was over there with them 2 years, and I actually did my student teaching over there. It's how I got started over there. So I reckon I was over there with them about two years and about 9 weeks. So did the student teaching in 9 weeks, and I reckon they thought I was crazy enough to come to work for them and teach drivers ed. After I saw how they had that, it was I don't know, it was one of the first ones in Georgia they did, and it was something that had come out of Atlanta that they thought was a great idea and all. And we had gotten a good lump sum of money for them to put that driving course. It was down there probably 500 or 600 yards from the school, and it was a unique deal. It really was.
So where'd you go after Cedar Shoals?
After Cedar Shoals, I don't know. I got to work with Lloyd Bohannon, and I got really interested in the defensive end of it. And I got to the point, like every young coach does, thinks you're ready, to go be a coordinator somewhere. So that was sort of on my mind. And then Ted Missildine, who had coached at Briarwood up in College Park, took the Fayette County high school job, and he was looking for a defensive coordinator. So I don't know. I had my wife and had one little boy, so we moved over to Fayetteville, and it wasn't as Jody Allen. I don't know whether you know Jody or not. Jody is Jody. Jody had cancer, and he's no longer with us. But he was one of my best players over at Fayette County, and his dad had been a coach, and he had gotten out of coaching and went up there to Ford Motor Company, and he was working up there, and he came by one day right after I took the job. Never will forget it. And Mr. Allen was an old time coach, baseball coach, football coach, and he said, "You might see soon enough around here why I have left and gone to Ford Motor Company." He said, "I never will forget his word." He said, "Football wise, coach says this is not. It's got some possibilities, but this is not the oasis on the Nile." And I never forgot him telling me that. We went through spring practice, and I actually had a kid we were doing agility drills on the field, and had a kid that just stopped right in the middle of the drill. He was laying on his back looking through his face mask at me. I told him, I said, "Son, you got to get to moving. You can't just quit in the middle of the drill." He said, "Coach," said, all the coaches before y'all, we've always done these same drills." Said, "It ain't gonna make any difference. We ain't gonna win in football here at Fayette County." I said, "Oh my God." I brought my wife and my kid over here, and wow, that's not a good thing to hear. So just we just had a lot of work to do, and there had been a lot of frustration. I think when I went to work there, I think they had, in the history of school, they had won like 39% of their football games, and I'm sure that's what that kid and Mr. Allen was alluding to. And it was a one-time coach that I took a job, and I never really checked the job out as closely as I should have. All I was wanting to do is I thought I was ready to, be a coordinator and spread my wings and do some great things and all that jazz that every young coach gets in their head. And I didn't, I had no idea what their record had been or anything. You think at that age you're 10 foot tall and bulletproof, and you're going to go fix you know, fix whatever the problem is. And as Johnny Stallings, who was a long-time defensive coordinator at Woodward Academy, Graham Hickson, told me, he said, "Coach, all he would ever tell me when I asked him about the job is, Coach, you got your hands full." But I had a lot of respect for Johnny, and I took to heart what he said. Lucky for us, about that time there was a great migration of folks out of Atlanta to the suburbs, and we were, I reckon, 15. Well, it was further than that. We probably 25 or 30 miles outside of Atlanta, and we had some kids to move in. And Fayette County at that time was a popular spot for people who were moving out of Atlanta and whatever. And we got some premium football players. I know I had a quarterback named Mike Ashley who had been at Lakeshore High School up there in College Park. that moved in, and he was a scholarship guy to Memphis State. So we got lucky with some of that, and then I had a guy named Warren Gray, whose dad was about 6'8" and worked at Delta Airlines, and Big Warren was a starter on the 1980 University of Georgia national championship team. Uh, he was a tackle for us and a heck of a football player, and went on to Georgia and was a heck of a football player. And uh, all the Gray boys, uh, Warren and John, and then the older brother Phil, all of them were tremendous football players. And Phil came home. He was on scholarship at University of Georgia and would have been a good lineman for him. And he came home, one of the saddest things in the world. He came home one Christmas and he loved to get on farm tractors and, agriculture stuff. And he's riding on one of them and he got to looking behind him and the thing went in the ditch and turned over on him. And that was one of the saddest funerals and that I guess I've ever been to. So, but the Gray boys were all good football players, and Big Warren was a stud. Now he really was.
So how long were you at Fayette County?
I was at Fayette 7 years, I reckon, 8 years, counting the 1 year that I was an assistant. In '76, I was an assistant and defensive coordinator, and we had a good year on defense, and I was tickled to death that we did because Coach Misseldine and the superintendent and some of the people at the central office, he didn't get along with real well. And after a year's time, he was originally from Alabama, and he went home to Prattville, Alabama, to be the head coach. Ted was a wing T guy, but a different wing T. I never seen anything like it since then. I ran the wing T and the buck sweep, and the trap, and the belly G, and all those good things. But Ted had a wing T where you lined up the same way, but it was a tall sweep type wing T where the quarterback actually turned and tossed the ball, and he actually was one of the lead blockers. I don't know whether you've ever seen that in action, but it was rather intriguing. They would line up in a wing set, and nobody saw it all year because the wing back and the tight end lined up and double teamed the defensive end, and it was a sweep play that went outside, and the fullback kicked out on the force, and the guard pulled around there for the linebacker, and he had the quarterback up in front of him, and I don't know, it was just a lot of people coming around there, and Ted was a good coach. I learned a lot from Ted, and enjoyed the year I spent with him. I hated that he left, but we had a good year on defense. We had given up 55 points in 10 games. And so, gosh, after a year, I guess being an assistant for him, they gave me the head coaching job, which probably a mistake, but things went well and it turned out good for them anyhow. We were 8-1-1 there with Ted one year. I was a defensive coordinator, and the next year we went 8-2 and beat Woodward Academy on their home field when they were ranked number 1 in the state. That was a big deal, and to the community of Fayette anyhow, because they'd never beaten Woodward, I don't think, in anything. And what happened after that was really a numbing experience because Fayette had grown so. We jumped from AA all the way to 4A. So instead of playing the GMCs and Campbell-Farrans and those kind of teams. They put us in a region with Griffin, Noonan, LaGrange, and all those people. And all the Clayton County schools. And I had some serious doubts about whether we could compete in that league. And because of the people we'd had moved in, and I had some good football coaches that I'd been able to hire. Ronnie Harbin, offensive coordinator, and Marvin Barton was my defensive coordinator. Marvin had been with me. Gosh, he had been with me. He was 28 years with me as my defensive coordinator. That's a rare sight nowadays also. But had some good football coaches, and we got in there, and we went 7-3 and made the playoffs the first year, which in that league was a major accomplishment. And everything went well. I think we went 5 years in a row where we were in the playoffs, and quad A ball, and then it had another crisis. About that time, the school had grown big enough to where McIntosh High School in Peachtree City was brought into being, and they got a bunch of our kids, and it was something we were playing. We just barely had enough to compete in the league we were in. And when McIntosh came around, about 16 or 17 of our best juniors ended up going to McIntosh, and I don't know. It just seemed like it was going to be real hard to win. And I talked to the Board of Education about it, and see if we could maybe go down from 4A to 3A or 2A, or maybe put us and McIntosh in the same league. And because McIntosh was just starting out, they didn't do that. So, we ended up in Quad A losing all those players and all. And not only you lose players, but you use boosters and booster money and all that type of stuff. So I guess it was right the third week of June. Ray Lamb, who I played against when I was in high school, when he was head coach at Warren County High School. Robert Lamb, who had coached at Wadley at one time, they were looking for a coach at Statesboro High. And I got a call from them, and I went down. There was a guy that had played and started at Georgia that ran a restaurant down there named Bruce Yawn.
Mm-hmm.
And Snookies, I think was.
Yep.
And I went down and talked to them, and I don't know. After what I saw down there and what I knew was, going on back in Fayetteville there, as far as trying to win in a place like that, it just, because I had been around long enough to know by that time that about 3 years as a head coach of 1-9 and 2-8, you want people who are lucky enough to win and all, and that kind of stuff just run your whole career. So I had a decision to make, and Mr. Gray, who was 6'7", 6'8", worked at Delta. He had got my wife on at Delta, and it's the best job my wife ever had. And gosh, I hated to leave. I hated for her to leave that job, but I knew I needed to do something. That just, more I talked to Marvin about it, and I wasn't going to leave Marvin there. I'm going to take him with me. And I had another coach there who was a great coach. I tried to take him with him, and he stayed there, and things didn't work out so great. And we went to Statesboro, and it was a great year for us. We ended up in the Final Four in Quad A, and we ended up losing to Valdosta, but it was 11-3 year for us, and we didn't get there. We didn't get started with them until July the 4th. And so only place I've ever been, we had some great kids. It's the only place I've ever been where kids would break in the weight room. And I asked them, I said, what are y'all breaking in? He said, Coach, I got a job in the afternoon. I need to lift in the morning. I said, gee whiz, I got a pretty good group here then. They did. I don't know how they slipped those doors or whether they were going through a window, but there were several times that Marvin and I would get up there and they were already in there lifting. I said, who's got a key in here? And nobody ever would admit to it if they did. But that was a special group. I had a kid named Lonnie Bradley that played tight end that played at Georgia Southern, and had a kid named Leroy Mincy, and it was I don't know, Robert Lamb's kids. One of them was a center, and one of them was a future quarterback. And I'm sure that's one reason Robert was trying to find a coach to come and coach. And Bruce Young, he and Bruce were big friends, and I ate at Bruce's in the morning and ate at Robert Lamb's restaurant and at night. He just sort of looked out to me and Marvin for whatever. We lived in a place with a lady who was 80 years old, and she would go to Savannah about 4 nights a week, and she was still playing the piano where they had a piano bar and whatever there. And they said they called it, you can look her up. She was a lady of 10,000 songs. They said people would come up there to the piano and they just tell her a song and she'd start playing it. And if she needed words to it, she'd sing it.
How about that?
But she was an unusual lady, and she was a mother of one of the guys who had played football there in the past and wanted to see Statesboro do well. And the only bad thing about that job is that I never got to see the guys in the weight room and all because I was an assistant principal. And with parties and all that kind of stuff, I'd never done that before. Kept me tied up all day. And I couldn't really. I had Marvin who did the weight room and all, but I wanted to get in there and see my kids and be around them and all, and never could do it because of being assistant principal. And we were 11-3. I reckon it was a week after we our last game that the superintendent from West Rome, from Rome City Schools, a guy by the name of Jess Laster, Dr. Jess Laster, showed up in the hall down there at Statesboro High. I had talked to him the year before about the head coaching job at West Rome, and he had been a coach, before, and knew all the ins and outs of what it took to have a winning program. And he wanted Marvin and I to come to West Rome, and I don't know. I talked to him there about getting out of that assistant principal deal and being able just to be a PE teacher or whatever, and be available to the kids during the day so I could get to know them a little better. And since that wasn't an option, when that job came available, Marvin and I decided that we probably need to jump on that because there wasn't many West Rome jobs available back then. So we headed up to West Rome, and that was a good move for us. It really was. But had we not made that move from Fayetteville when we did to Statesboro, then none of the other things that happened would have ever been able to happen. No way. So it turned out being a good decision.
So what year did you end up at West Rome?
I was at West Rome from 1985 to 89. And it was a good deal. When I went there, I knew what kind of football they played before I went there. And I'd been at Fayette when we were scraping and doing whatever to find the football players. And I said, hey, I'd love to try a place where there already some guys there,
Yeah.
And that was a heck of a group up there. It really was. I think we start off the year and we were in our 11th or 12th ball game that year before anybody scored a point on us on the defense. And that wasn't because we were trying to keep people from scoring anything, because we would put young guys in there and do this and do that. And, it just so happened that, I think we were in game 12 before anyone scored on us that year. And just a solid defense, and had some players on offense too. And that was a state championship year, and 15-0. And I don't know, at the end of the year, the big newspaper up there that always ranked the teams, being just a double A team, they end up with us number 13 in the nation, which was a big deal to the people at West Rome. And it was a lot of fun. It really was. That was a lot of fun. And then after that, I think, 4 more years, I thought I had found, when I went to West Rome, I thought I had found my retirement job. And lo and behold, looked like every doggone time Fayetteville could have been a retirement job. But, they come and built the other school and took a lot of our players and money people and all that. And, I thought that could be in one. And then I get to Rome, West Rome, and win the state championship. I said, golly, this may be a retirement job, And about 4 years later, the property where West Rome High sat, and the property where East Rome High sat, we were bitter rivals, no doubt about that. The property where they sat, Sam's and the Walton people were wanting to buy those properties, and they offered an enormous amount of money for West Rome and East Rome. And when that happened, they decided to close those schools down and consolidate and build just one school. And in talking with Dr. Lassie, the superintendent, he told me he felt like that the way it was going to end up is we were going to have to share coaching responsibilities, with the East Rome staff. Like, we would do offense and East Rome staff would do defense, or vice versa. And I don't know. I had some mixed feelings about that. I just didn't know how that would work out. I'd never done anything like that. And, basically I said, if I'm the head coach and I decide I don't like, what they're doing, what's the deal, And I never could get a firm answer on that. So, after having a retirement job there, I got back close to home and went to Greene County, Greene-Tailaferro High School at the time, and that was we're 20 miles from mother and daddy, which that was good, and it was close to where my wife was. Her parents, her dad was a prison warden, and they were in Milledgeville, so that was a good move. And but I don't know. Looked like every time we get settled down somewhere, something else like that came along, and you know, I would have liked to have been at a place where I could have stayed like Dan Pitts for 38 years. He used to kid me all the time, about you know, Coach Pitts was he was a good guy, man. I loved to sit and talk with him, and he would tell me, he said, you've been able to win wherever you've been. Why you leave? I said, well, when you just don't feel right about something, and you don't feel like you can get along with the administration or whatever, rather than sit there, and fuss with them and go through all that, really just go somewhere else and start over. And so Greene County was good. We were able to. I don't know. In 1989 is when we went there. 1988 was my last year at West Rome, and they were in the midst of consolidating and doing Rome High School, and I decided that Marvin, he's ready to go again. Marvin was with me 28 years, and so.
Well, Coach, can I interrupt you for just a second?
Go ahead
and tell you my Coach Barton story, and it has to do with Greene-Tailaferro.
Wow!
When y'all won the state championship at Greene, I was up at the clinic. Not that year. This was, I'm not old enough, but I'm up at the clinic up in Atlanta, and I met him just sitting around out in the foyer. And he introduces himself, and we get to talking, and I'm eating it up. He's just telling me all y'all stories and stuff. And he said, Coach, I've been with Coach Winslette for 28 years. He goes, man, that team. I said, man, that team y'all had at Greene was something else. He said, Coach, I had one job. I just had to make sure that the bus had enough gas on it, and when they got off, to tell them not to hit their head when they got off. Because as long as I did that, there wasn't nobody going to beat us that year, Coach. I'll never forget that. That joke was funny to me.
Marvin played linebacker over there with Sonny Smart, with Coach Smart's dad, and they I tell you what, Marvin's much of a man. Now I tell you, back in his younger days when he used to carouse a little bit, nobody won't mess with him now. Because I tell you what, he was well put together, and had a little bit of a mean streak in him, which he passed on to his defense. And I enjoyed my time working with Marvin. We that group was a special group. What's amazing about that is we started the first year we were there in 1989. We started working hard, doing what we needed to do to try to build a program. And we ended up that year, that's the most amazing year of my coaching career. In 1989, we had guys who wouldn't do what they were supposed to do. And I set them out of games and didn't let them play. And as a result, we lost 2 or 3 games we would have won had I not set them out. I reckon I was stupid, but it worked good for the future. So we ended up the last week of the season we had to win that game to get in the 14 playoff in the region. And we had to play the best team in the region, and that was Oconee County. And we were able to beat them on the road. And we got in there, and we were 4-6, Coach. We were 4-6 in the playoffs. We messed around there and finally got those guys to, come to practice and do what they're supposed to do. And we got them going, and we ended up winning 4 games in a row, and we were in the playoffs. And ended up our last ball game against Jack Johnson and them down there at Mitchell Baker. Lost to them by 1 point, and I still tell Jack that was an illegal 2-point conversion they did there. He had the twins over there and the tight end all on the same side and threw a pop pass to the tight end. And you got 2 backs in the backfield. I asked Jack many times, how do you make the tight end eligible? But we lost. We ended up losing that by 1 point. And from that point on, well, they never won a state championship in football in Greene. It was a push to try to win a state championship. And every year we got a little better and got a little better. And of course, in 1993, we ended up being able to win it all. And
y'all didn't have many youngins on that team either, did you?
28, Coach.
28 are the baddest things I've ever seen. Good Lord.
On state championship night, we had 28 players. And my middle son was a deep snapper, and he was, that's all he did. And I expect we had 13 or 14 of them that actually took the field. And the rest of them were younger kids who weren't ready to play yet. And, it was, that was a good group of kids, though. We started with them when they were in 8th and 9th grade, and they sort of grew into it. And had some good players and some good kids. And Marvin always did the weight program, and that was always one of the things that really, really made us a decent program, because he worked them hard, and Marvin just had a way with kids. And
well, at that point, you've now won 2 state championships at 2 different schools. You are officially you're in another level. I mean, you're on another level. You're on another level. There ain't many people that's done that at that point, So now, what do you do?
Well,
after Greene-Tailaferro.
About that time, the superintendent that we went there to work with, they had the last superintendent selection where the people actually voted on the superintendent.
Right.
And where the Board of Education did get in and just do a statewide, nationwide search, whatever they call it, and find one. And the guy that brought us there and been so good to us, he didn't win. And part of the reason he didn't win is he had some people that used our football program, and supposedly what we were paying coaches and this and that and the other, how that kind of stuff goes. And wasn't really anybody getting overpaid, I can promise you that. And it just didn't seem like it was going to be a good atmosphere. And the principal I had at Greene County had just taken the superintendent's job in Douglas, Georgia, at Coffee High School, in Coffee County. And again, it just, I don't know, just seemed like it, every time you look like things are going good, then something like that comes along. And I don't know, I never have liked to be in a deal where I'm at odds with the people above me, because you never win those situations. You can, you can do whatever, and you try to get some people on your side, and then there's some people on the other side, and I just never liked playing that game. So, I went with Mr. Luke, David Luke, to who was my principal at Greene. I went with him to Coffee High School, and I think we got in the playoffs for the first time in like 7 years, and I had some good friends down there. Barnwell Royal. Barnwell had been a friend of mine since we played them at Statesboro when I was over there at Statesboro. I always thought the world of him. Never been a better Southern gentleman than Barnwell Royal. And, everything there was good. They had a couple of single A schools and Coffee High School. And the Coffee school's right there in Coffee, in the city limits. And I'm trying to remember what the names of the schools were. But they had 2 single A schools. And the people in those communities love those schools. And they had a vote, and they decided to consolidate all of that into one school, Coffee County High School. And they had representatives from those 2 communities, Nichols, I think it was.
Nichols,
and
yep.
And Broxton.
Broxton, yep. Nichols and Broxton.
Those were the 2 schools. And, they voted on it, and they voted to consolidate and whatever. And all this was before we ever got there. We got there when the school was built, and, we're carrying on with our business. But these 2 representatives that represented to those 2 areas, I guess because Mr. Luke was from the outside, to make a long story short, it just, the politics between them was not good at all. And Mr. Luke told me that in confidence that, if I saw something I liked, you might better jump on it, because he wasn't going to be around that long.
And this is where I have another question, because I want you to clear up a legend for me.
All right.
There's a legend that you may know or you may not. I'm trying to get you to confirm this for me. And I am not going to tell you who told me this, because I don't want to get them in trouble with you. But one of the greatest Papa Win stories ever. Oh, that's what we call you, by the way. Big Papa Win stories ever is that y'all were standing on the sideline at Coffee, and you looked across the sideline at Tift, and you said, "Boys, we're on the wrong sideline." And that's how y'all ended up at Tift County. Is that true?
No, the thing that messed it up is really David Luke was the only guy I knew in Coffee County.
So it didn't have nothing to do with Tift County having better players.
No.
Okay, because that was the way it went. They said you looked around and went, "Boys, we are on the wrong sideline."
No, I can't take credit for that one, because until Mr. Luke told me that, you could see some real possibilities at Coffee, as you've seen how it's worked out lately. But here's the deal, and I told them this, and I told the people in the Booster Club, and several of them were good friends, and they're good people. I said, when y'all get a superintendent that's from here, that the Board of Education trusts, and I said, he's going to have to be from here now. He ain't going to be able to be from somewhere else, because we done figured out how that works. I said, this will be as good a coaching job as there is in the state of Georgia. But I said, until that happens, because I worked with Mr. Luke, 3-4 years up there at Greene County. I knew what kind of person he was and the backing he gave. And I said, gee whiz. I said, if you don't like David Luke, I mean, gosh knows. But it was all because they were mad still about them closing the schools in Broxton and Nichols. And they were there was one board member from each place. And they were mad about the schools being closed. And it was like they thought Mr. Luke could do something about it. And they had already voted and built a new school and everything before we ever got there. And it was almost like they were mad at him because it happened and he had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
But there wasn't much cooperation. Every time he brought something up, they gave him a hard time, with it and all. And, I didn't know, I didn't know, what to do again. And, I don't know, in the coaching profession, you spend a lot of time on your knees praying and trying to figure out what to do next sometimes. And it doesn't matter whether you've been successful or you hadn't been successful. You still going to spend a lot of time, praying and trying to figure out, what you need to do next. And the guy over at Tift County, that was the superintendent over there, because we had played well against them when we played them at Coffee. Was interested in us moving over there. And, after Mr. Luke told me what he did, that sort of made things pretty clear. And we got over there and things were good over there. So, I get questioning, myself, when's this going to end? How do you see if we go somewhere, and win and enjoy it and stay there, But I don't know. Seems like that, when you're from the outside in a community, it's a different deal.
It really is.
It is. You people who are there, and I have been told this before, and I don't guess I believe it, but they're never going to trust you, and they're never going, they're never going to accept you as one of their own.
No.
And, that to me was frustrating because, the assistant coaches I had and myself, we was up there working like crazy, trying to have a program.
Pouring into the kids.
Amen. And you would think people would appreciate that, but I don't know. Just nitpick this, nitpick that. And, after a certain amount of nitpicking, you get tired of nitpicking. You go say, I'm going to go nitpick somewhere else.
So was Tifton your last head coaching job?
No. I, got over there and things were well. And I don't know, there was some disturbed people over there in Tifton because of the way that the thing with Coach Brody was handled. They didn't feel like that Coach Brody had been treated well, towards the end of his thing. And again, it was another one of those things where it was getting along with the central office. And for whatever reason, you know, there were some problems there, and he still, of course, I didn't know this until I got. He still had people in the community, just like in the community at Coffee, upset about closing those schools down. You know, they were also upset that some of them didn't feel like Coach Royal, you know, had been done right on his way out. And you know, I don't know how you check on those kind of things before you take a job, but you know, it plays a big role into if you go in there and you end up taking one of them's place. It plays a big role into how the people, you know, either bring you in and make you one of theirs, or they don't. And you know, I had the utmost respect for Coach Brody and Coach Roy, and never had 1 minute's problem with either one of them. But I don't know. Still got people out there who got feelings and all that, and you know, moving on to Tift. I think I was there 4 years. We played for another state championship there against Parkview, and the guy who's the offensive coordinator for Georgia Tech now was a quarterback at Parkview then, believe it or not.
Oh, I was at that game.
Yes. And I don't know. We played in the dome and was able to beat Brookwood, who had been the state champion the year before, and beat Valdosta pretty handily. And our games ran late, and I think we got back to Tifton at 5:30 in the morning. And the next week, as luck would have it, we had to go back to Atlanta, and had to figure all that out. And so we head back up there. You know, I think it was like Wednesday or Thursday. Thursday, I think it was. We head back up there, you know, to try to get ready to play in the game. And I don't know. I probably don't need to put some of it on the record there, but they had a situation there where Parkview, and I kid Coach Faulkner about this all the time. They had picked up a running back. I don't know whether you remember this or not, but they made a rule after this. But they had picked up a running back who had played at another school there locally for 10 games. And after the season was over with, I think he decided he didn't want to stay at the school he was at, and he was going to move to Parkview anyhow. So why wait till next year? Heck, I'll just go help him. I'll just go help him this year.
That's crazy.
And, you know, they made a rule after that, you know, if you played at another school, you know, the first 10 games of the year, you couldn't go transfer like that. But Jim Hughes, Dr. Jim Hughes, is the first one that told me about it, you know. Said, Parkview's got a new running back. Said, you know, I said, you're kidding. I said, and, you know, he went into specifics of what had happened and all that. And I said, that can't be. But it was, because that was the only thing that they were really lacking. So went up and played them and ended up losing that game. And I think it was like, I don't know, it was 7-0 at the half. And we felt like we scored right before the half. One of those deals where your quarterback sneak, and felt like the quarterback went in the end zone and they pushed him back out. And we had told the officials called timeout on the play before and told him, don't get screened off because we're going to be in a tight set. Get in there where you can see it because we're going to run a quarterback sneak. And if he gets across the goal line, don't let them push him back. And we told the officials that so that they could make sure they got a good vantage point to call it from. And felt like he got in the end zone and scored, and they pushed him back. And sure enough, instead of being 7-7 at the half, it was 7-0. So I don't know. You lose those kind of games, you nitpick just about everything. So, but I don't know. It was a good year, and we had a kid named Worth Bowers at quarterback who was a great leader, and he had Tyson Summers who went to Georgia Southern to be the head coach, and has been to a couple of 3 other places and done real well. And he was a linebacker for us, and then my youngest son Brad, was a linebacker on that team. So, it was a good group of kids who, I think we ended up the year third in the region and ended up playing for the state championship. So, it was a good group of kids and good group that really took things seriously and got down and worked hard. And then the superintendent, I don't know, there was one board member in particular who had played for Coach Brody, and I don't know, it seemed like he was trying to avenge the fact that they had, hadn't treated Coach Brody and his staff right. And, he got started with all the nitpicking and all that. And I don't know. I just never have been one to sit there and get in the middle of something like that. Because, nobody's going to win that. It spills over into the team, spills over into the community, spills over into the coaching staff. And, rather than do that, hey, go somewhere else and do it again. So that's exactly what we did. We headed off Stevens County, and I was there. Let's see, I think I was there 6 years, and would have probably retired there, but my dad. During the last year I was there, my dad died. And my mom was. She was in the house then, and she was up in age in the house by herself, and felt like it was time that I needed, because my brother, the pharmacist, and owned the pharmacy in Rome, and I just didn't feel like he was going to go down there and look after my mother. So I really felt like I needed to do it, and that's when after 6 years there, oh God, I think we won 55, 60 games, 55, 56 games. It was a little better than 9 wins a year. That was a great place and a great group of kids again. And, that was leaving for a whole different reason. It's family situation after my dad died. So that was
Is that when you went to Gatewood?
Yeah, that's when I went to Gatewood. And that wasn't particularly intriguing. That certainly wasn't the reason I made the move because Stevens County was, you know, was a good job, and Gatewood was having some struggles at that time. I think when I went there to take over, that they had been like 1-10 and 2-9. And I asked them, how do you go 2-9? How'd you get in the playoffs, to lose the last game? And they'd done the same thing when they were 1-10. I think they just, said, hey, you're in the playoffs. So they went and played one more game and lost. And, I got Marvin there with me again. We got things going. And, that was a good little situation. It was. But I enjoyed my time there. That's a different. It was a little bit of a different animal there because we didn't have but like 23, 24 players. But I know I have had a whole bunch anywhere I've been. So that wasn't as big a concern as it would have been to some other people. So
you're back in helping at Putnam County, right?
Yes. I've been here, gosh, I reckon 8 years now. And when I first came back, things were sort of rough, and had to figure out, who you could count on, who you couldn't count on, who was going to work, who wasn't going to work, and went through all that. And he had 3 really good years back to back to back. With Pope, Pope was a head coach, and had some good years there. And I think we won 30 games, I think, in 3 years, and won the region 1 year there, and won 12 games. So it was enjoyed working, for Pope, and the guy I'm with now, he's a good guy too. I enjoy working with him. He's just, I don't know, in a small school, unless you're recruiting. I will say, when Pope was here, we did have the good fortune of having a quarterback and a receiver who went to South Carolina as a freshman and was a starter, in the secondary for South Carolina. He and his brother were both outstanding players, and they had as any time you win, no matter what you think yourself a coach, you ain't going to win unless you got some players.
Yeah. They tend to make a difference.
Yes, sir. And, that's something I learned early on. When I was at Cedar Shoals, we had Jeff Pyburn, and who played quarterback at Georgia, and Rick Doble, who was a tight end at Auburn, and Danny Rogers, who was a linebacker at University of Georgia. Herbert Watkins, who was a defensive tackle at the University of Georgia. Had all them in just the 2 years I was there. And
well, Coach, who were some of the coaches you competed against that you just enjoyed or respected, above anybody else, that you just really, whether it was you kicking their tail that you enjoyed the most, or you just respected how they ran their teams, that you just over the years you enjoyed matching up against?
Oh, gosh, I reckon Butch Brooks would be the first one to come to mind. Butch was a long-time friend, coached at Washington Wilkes, and always a big rival of ours there at Greene County. And of all things, when we were in the state championship at West Rome, we ended up playing Butch for the state championship. And, he's been a friend. He was a friend of mine for many years, and always enjoyed being around Butch. And we worked together in the GACA, and you know, I guess the next one will probably be Dan Pitts. Always enjoyed being around Coach Pitts, and he had a certain way. They were a Shade Eagle team, and he had a certain way that he liked to play the secondary. Where if you were in a pro set, they inverted the strong safety away from the tight end side, which I had never seen before. And I asked Coach Pitts, we had a big powwow there one day there where all the coaches was around there, and we're drawing stuff on the board and all that. People don't do that enough anymore. But I asked Coach Pitts, I said, now, who's covering the flats on the tight end side? I said, the strong safety's over there on the other side to do it. Who's covering the flats on the tight end and pro side? And he said, well, this guy here, we got a 9 technique. We call him a drop in. He's the guy that's got the flats, curl the flat. And I was sitting there, thinking, I don't know about that now. And I finally asked him, I said, Coach, what if somebody play actions out the eye that way and lets the tight end come out, inside the 9 technique and goes back out in the flat? I said, who's going to play him? And he never could give me a good answer. And so a couple of 3 years later, when we play them for the state championship, that's exactly what we did. Matter of fact, we ran the counter boot and ran the fullback in the flat, a tight end on the middle route, and ran the wing back off deep. And they had some difficulty. They had some difficulty covering that. But I always loved Coach Pitts. He came over all the way to Greensboro before we played them at Greene County for the state championship. And he walked here and he walked there, and he said, man, it's such a time. He was laying his timeline out for the Friday night that was coming up for the game, And I said, gee whiz, I don't know where I'm going to be in the next 2 minutes, much less Friday night. But that's how he planned stuff out. He was the best in the world at it. And the one I really appreciated, though, and I knew he was worried about us a little bit. I got a call about Wednesday that week that we were going to play them, and he was always so serious, so I didn't know what to make of it. He said, Coach said, we need to just meet and swap these films back, these videos back. He said, I can't really tell nothing off your videos. Said, it looks like, and this is what he said. It said, it looks like whoever filmed this thing for y'all was standing on the bench over there rather than was up top. And I told him, I said, Coach, I said, we done played 4 playoff games. I said, ain't nobody had no problem with the film, because I'd gotten a little worried because I had a lot of respect for him, and I sure didn't want him to think we were trying to mess with him. About that time, he busted out laughing. And he must have laughed for 3 minutes, just belly laughing, just as loud as you ever heard. I said, you rascal, you. I said, but he was mind gaming, see. That's what he was doing. He was playing with my mind. And Max Bass did that to me one time when I was at Fayette County.
Not Max Bass. He wouldn't do something like that.
Oh, you would love it. You would love it. When we first went from double A into quad A, Mac stood up at the region meeting and says, we want to welcome Coach Winslette and Fayette County in our region. He said, the only problem, guys, and he was talking to other coaches, is he said, everybody can't play them for homecoming now.
Oh, no.
Because I've already got them for homecoming. And he said, I know the rest of y'all going to want to, too.
Oh, no.
And, God, we just been 8-2 the year before and beat Woodward Academy. And, damn. I said, gee whiz. I said, I told Max, I said, I won't forget that. And
didn't he get brown uniforms one time to hide the football?
Oh, shoot, he's done it all. He's done it all. So the second game of the year, we got to go to Newnan to play them. So we get into a knockdown, drag out with them. I'm talking about both of us are playing good defense and this, that, and the other. The thing goes down. The thing goes down to overtime. And that's when you had the old rules, when you...
Penetration.
Yeah. So we get the ball down there on their 3-yard line. And we have to call a timeout because we're over there as coaches arguing about whether to go for it or not. And one coach says, well, you already got penetration, this, that, and the other, So, made a long story short, we decided to go for it, and the fullback scored, and we ended up winning the game. So, what had happened is there was a guy from the Peachtree City paper who had called me and said, now, we've heard all these stories about Max Bass. Said, Coach, what can you tell us about Max Bass? Of course, I'd heard all of those stories. And I knew better than to say anything because I knew he would use that against us, So I said, all I've heard, is that Coach Bass is quite a character. So they put that in the Peachtree City paper. So when I get over there that night, and it's right at the 1st of September, Max Bass has got a long wool coat on. And I'm saying, what in the world is Max doing? So we ended up meeting up about the 50-yard line up there for the game to do the little handshake and this, that, and the other. He said, boy, you done got me all upset here. I'm mad at you. Trying to shake me up, And I thought, I thought I was dead serious, just like with Coach Pitts, I didn't know him that well. I didn't know what kind of guy he was. He said, that quote you put in the Peachtree City paper, he said, that's done hurt me bad in my church. Now, here's my problem at that time. I hadn't read the Peachtree City paper. I had no idea what the man had put in there. I said, oh, my God, what in the world is going on here? So he keeps on. And finally, I figure out why he's got the wool coat on. It's all the way down to his knees. Looked like something a Russian will wear at the North Pole. He reaches way down in the pocket of one of them things, and he's going to cut that article out. And he pulled that article out of his pocket, and he's got it dangling there in front of him. He said, yeah. He said, I've been reading what you said. So you hurt me bad in my church. He done repeated that one again, And I didn't know what it said. I wanted to grab the thing and read it so I could see whether he was just messing with me or not. So I didn't know what to think of. And then he pulls this one on. He said, Coach Bryant just sued the Saturday Evening Post for about $400,000 and won a verdict against him. He said, my lawyer will be talking to you on Monday morning. I said, oh, God. I ain't making that kind of money. I said, it'd take me a whole coaching career to pay $400,000 back. He got me. I mean, he did what he wanted to do. He had me all for it. So I go down there and I tell Harbin, I said, thanks. Damn guys up there talking about suing me. I said, holy smoke. I said, did you see that article in the Peachtree City paper? He said, yeah, I saw that article. He said, that man ain't doing nothing but pulling your leg. He said, all you said in the article is that Coach was quite a character. And boy, I tell you what, I felt like 100-pound weight lifted off my chest.
He had you going.
So then, oh God, he had me. I mean, I was convinced that I was going to be talking to the lawyer on Monday morning. So we played a game, and we ended up beating them in overtime. And after the game, Max had this deal where he had his, I'm sure you've seen him do it, where he had his clipboard tied around his neck.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't lose his game plan and wouldn't set it down nowhere. I reckon if he felt like he tied it around his neck, wasn't no way he could lose it. So one of the cords on the thing had broke loose after the game, and he had tied it onto his belt, and when he was walking, it was hitting the ground. And he still tells me now after the game, he said, that was a great game, Coach. Said, I still can't believe y'all beat us. But he said, my lawyer will still be talking to you on Monday morning. Well, about that time, I had wrote down a fictitious phone number. So when he said that, I handed that thing to him. I said, no, don't tell him to call me. Tell him to call my lawyer. He'll be at that number right there. And then I just laughed at him. Because then he knew I done figured out what kind of crap he was doing, But hey, he played in brown uniforms one night, the same color as the football. And they were running the wishbone, and they were running the belly. They put the ball in the fullback's stomach and then handed it to the second guy. And you couldn't tell who had the ball. And
he said it was old gold, Coach.
What was that? And he had a special name for it. What did he call that? He had a special name that he called it, because I heard him call it one time. People think I'm cheating, doing something wrong with his jersey. Said, this is, and he had a special name that he had done made up to call it where it looked like it cleared him, Yeah,
it wasn't Vegas gold. He called it something else.
No. One night,
because he said he got it from Georgia Tech. They messed the colors up, so they let him have them for a good price or something like that.
That sounds about right. And then another time, with Jimmy Hightower and LaGrange, they were playing, and the lights went off in the stadium. And then Joe Kynes told the one on him that when he worked for Mac Bass, his biggest job before the game was to go into the visitors' dressing room and make sure there was no toilet tissue. I mean, this cat is unbelievable, man.
Psychological warfare at its finest.
Unbelievable. I have never seen one like Max. So then
He was a spoke.
Max is going to have a football clinic. He advertises the thing, and he's got Pat Dye speaking. He's got Bear Bryant speaking. I said, damn, this is something I can't miss this, you know? And we get over there to the clinic, and Max is just a cussing. He's cussing Bear Bryant. He's cussing Pat Dye. I hate folks you can't depend on. He said, they were coming to my clinic. They even called me at the last minute and canceled out. That joker had done nothing in the world but put their names on there because he knew a bunch of folks would show up and pay their money. I'm telling you now, he had to get up early in the morning out with old Max now.
He was a spoke.
He was unbelievable. We played him in Fayetteville another time over there. And he had seen it somewhere, and I don't know where he got it from. But that little underhanded pass, that people throw, so if you drop the ball, it's not a fumble, it's an incomplete pass.
Right.
So Max tried one of those on us in a tight ball game there in Fayetteville. And I thought the refs were going to kick him out of the game. When the guy tossed the thing, it hit our kid's helmet and bounced up in the air, and our kid caught it out of the air and ran about 30 yards with it. So Max called timeout twice to talk to the official. And he said, I know the rules. I know when you flip it on the hand like that and it's incomplete, it's not a fumble, it's an incomplete pass. And they tried their best to explain to him. So Max said it hit the guy's helmet and bounced up in the air, and it was a live ball. But they never could make Max believe it. I swear I thought they were going to have to throw him out of the game. And that was another one we got him on. We ended up beating him on that one too. Max, he's unbelievable now. I never run into a guy like him. But I never will. I've never been embarrassed as I was at that first region meeting. And he got up and welcomed us to the region. He said, now everybody can't play them for homecoming now.
But you had the last laugh.
Oh, I did. I sure the world did. But there has never been another Max Fair. I'll promise you that.
Well, Coach, I can promise you this. There will probably never be another Charles Winslette. And I am so glad that you joined us today to tell us your story and share with all of us coaches your journey so far. And I'm so glad that you're still pouring into kids and coaches alike and sharing with us and passing your knowledge on and still working and still coaching. And we know you ain't got to.
Hey, I wish I had time to tell you the thing at the University of Georgia when I was a designated hitter and ended up going and get my own home run ball. That's a good one in itself.
Well, Coach, if you want to tell it, tell it.
We're playing the University of Kentucky, and I'm either playing first base or I'm being the designated hitter, And I sort of like that DH deal because all you did do was hit, didn't even have to take infield for the game. So we're playing Kentucky, and I think I'm batting third in the order in the first inning. And the old guy gets a full count on me, and he throws one low inside. And I hit that thing, and it's like a rocket going out of there. went over the right field fence, and it got out of there in a hurry. There was a bank of kudzu up there in right field. I'm talking about some man-eating kudzu. It must have been 7, 8, 9 foot tall. And that's where the baseball went. Our next man made an out. So Coach Watley was on third base coaching over there. He came across there, and comes in the dugout. He said, well, you hit that one good, didn't you, Biggin? Said, only problem, said, we got a $5 baseball laying up there in that kudzu. And said, since you ain't playing the field, he said, how about getting your big fanny up there and chase it down? I said, no. I said, this ain't real, man. I said, no way in SEC baseball is a man going to make a man go get his own home run ball. I sort of looked down the dugout, and my eyes met his, and it was like, I meant what I said. You ain't back yet. So we had 300, 400, 500 people there at the game, and it was an SEC game, and our dugout was on the same side as the kudzu was over there, where the home field dugout was. I said, "Oh God!" I said, "This is embarrassing, man." So we had a big old bucket, 5-gallon bucket of balls right there on the edge of the dugout. So I did think on my way out of there to grab a ball. But I had my doubts, as thick as that kudzu was up there, that I was going to find anything up there. So there was a fence between the road. There was a fence between the road and the field. So I said, shoot, I got to stay close to this fence. I said, I'm trying to hide as much as I can going up through here, So if I stay real close to this fence, maybe won't nobody see me. So I ease on up the fence. I get up there in the kudzu. I look back towards home plate, and the kudzu's so thick you can't even see home plate from the kudzu. I stomp around up there, and I said, I may step on a snake big as my leg up here. I said, God Almighty, I said, I ain't doing this. So about that time, I decided I'm gonna head on back down because I got a ball, and I said, if Coach Watley's in the dugout when I get back, I can show him the ball and drop it in the bucket, and he'll be happy. He said that $5 baseball laying up there in that kudzu, go get it. So I head on back down. Well, I get about half the way down the fence, and walking down the road is my mama and daddy and Aunt Irene and Uncle Joe from Milledgeville, who was coming to the game to see me play. They done got there late and done missed a home run ball. And my daddy sees me walking to that fence. And he says, son, what kind of trouble you got into up here? Said, last time I come up here, you was playing first base. And I said, now you chasing balls? I had that ball in my hand. So I said, Daddy, and my daddy was about halfway hard of hearing because he had been he had been the Morse code operator on the big old plane that they flew during World War II that was a bomber. And I said, Daddy, I said, I hate because y'all got here late. And when I saw Aunt Irene and Uncle Joe, I knew why they was late. They were been on time for nothing. So Daddy says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I hit a home run, Dad, in the first inning." And I said, "Since I'm the designated hitter and I'm not playing the field, Coach Watley thought it was a good idea for me to come up here and get this home run ball." And I can't repeat what my daddy said, but it wasn't very nice. And he said, "You didn't even have to chase your home run balls in Little League, son." Said, "This is the SEC and you chasing your own home run ball?" He still didn't halfway believe. He said, "You done got in some kind of trouble?" I said, "No, Dad, I ain't got no trouble." I said, "I'm just DH." I said, "If you don't believe it, y'all go get your seat in the stands and you can see me the next time I bat," which is probably coming up pretty soon. Because I've killed about 15 to 20 minutes messing around up here in this kudzu and explaining this to you. So what you learn from that is never let them make you a designated hitter if you're a baseball player. And that way you don't ever have to chase your own home run ball. That's a true to life thing that happened. Wow.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
Well, Coach, I sure have enjoyed it. I appreciate you so much for coming on and sharing with us. And I can't wait till I get to see you again at one of the clinics.
All right, well, man. Appreciate you for what you're doing.
Well, thanks, Coach. I appreciate it.
Appreciate the time you're spending on it.
All right. Well, thanks, Coach.
All right, my man.
All right.
Appreciate you. Bye-bye.